I think Ben Franklin's greatest contribution to American history is being really man of the people and being a supporter of community. He was able to speak to people up and down the social ladder unlike anybody else.
Of all the founding fathers, Franklin seems to me to be the most approachable. He's the one who I'd most like to sit down and have dinner with. Because of the fact that he has so many really human attributes, he seems accessible. And I think that's one of the reasons that people find him so likable.
I think that maybe more than any other person, he exemplifies the spirit of improvement that was such a huge transforming force in 18th century society, especially in America, but really in many other countries as well. Franklin saw improvement as a kind of combination of self-improvement, improving your own mind, which would also help you improve your position in the community, but that ultimately all these things would work together to improve the community as well.
The autobiography is really a completely new creature for its time. Up till that point, there had been lots of memoirs of great and famous men, and Franklin was certainly aware of what those were and had read many himself. In a way, the autobiography is it's a new literary form. Because his style of autobiography is then the style that gets most copied in the 19th century and today. We read all sorts of autobiographies by people, some of whom are famous for only a few minutes and some of whom are famous for lots and lots of deeds, but almost all of them go back to their childhood and try to find strands, connections between what happened to them as children and what their experiences were growing up. They all connect those things to what they would later become. And Franklin is really the first person to do that.
The first edition of the autobiography contains just the first two parts, and it was published in French because at the time of his death, the only really good manuscript of it was in the hands of a French friend of his. And so it first appeared in 1791 in Paris in French. And it was immediately reprinted in London in English, except they didn't have the English manuscript there, and so they translated from the French back into English. One thing you can say about it is that it's been one of the most steady-selling autobiographical books ever written. In the 19th century, in its abbreviated form, it was a very popular book. It was an inspiration for young men who were trying to rise in the world. All over the world. It was translated into I can't remember how many languages. It is arguably the best autobiography of an 18th century American that exists. It's the most complete picture of the life of a working man in the 18th century that we have from any source. And it's also, of course, a great work of literature, and you have to remember that this was Franklin's life as he wanted posterity to see it. He put spin on things in a great many ways that both make him look good but don't make him look too good. And I think that the real genius of the autobiography is to portray himself sympathetically but far from a perfect person.